Right, welcome back to the second part of the View from the Allotment End podcast, issue 5, part 2. Although it could be just Groundhog Day, because we're about to discuss another
clusterfuck.
Clusterfuck, yeah, poorly performing football club. Hull City, we've got 2 resident Hull City fans that pretty much don't miss a match, and Nick, you've been to a couple this season. We spoke before we came on camera about them being Jekyll and Hyde, and I gave them the benefit of having a better record than they've actually got. But they certainly seem to be win one, lose one. We were just talking in the break about you went to the Preston game
on Tuesday,
and they were next to useless. Lost 2-1, and then the following 3-4 days later they put 6 past Birmingham.
And only still 17th in the table.
Only
17th in the table, yeah, but the top scorers in the Football League, which I think even before the Preston game there was a stat that dug up that they were the second top scorers and conceded the second most in the Championship.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a funny season. I mean, we talk about North Ferriby obviously, and it's very similar. I think the difference being Hull City do eventually splash out on some players and bring in players who are better than what Ferriby can afford, but then Ferriby are losing players and they're not losing them for 15 and 20 million quid. So
Kendall.
It's like a mirror image, isn't it, essentially?
It is almost, yeah.
It's just a bigger scale.
It is a bigger scale, yeah. I mean, they've gone down in the summer. We've had a massive upheaval, huge turnover in players. Took far too long to bring players in, and I think the problem is we're 11 games into the season and the manager still doesn't know what system he wants to play and who he wants to play in the system, because pre-season was an absolute waste of time. And pre-season was full of either young players from the under 23s who were stepping up, or players who were then sold to other clubs. Some of them in the middle of matches almost, it seemed like a sub came off and that was it. He was on a bus to Derby. So huge turnover, and that's just, I think that explains the start and the nature of it. I mean, the 3 games they've won 4-0, 4-1 and 6-1. So, which is kind of explains why they're top scorers, and they are a pretty entertaining team because they'll let loads in and they score loads. But he's just looking for something, and I think sometimes he strikes upon it, similar like the Birmingham game where he picked the right team, and I think when we destroyed Bolton the other week, he picked the right team for that game, and others it's not the right team, and he's tinkering with it at half time, and just he's playing with it because we've just done everything too late, and you cannot run a football club like that. But we know 2 people who do.
Well, that was my impression from the game last Tuesday. It was like 11 strangers, who just got together that morning to have a kick around together against a team who were nothing special, but had a system. They had the kind of the big bulky lad up front who, I can't remember his name, but I mean everything just went up to him, and the 2 little sort of smaller, faster players off him just knew where to run every single time. They just had a very easy, basic system, and the players knew their jobs, didn't they?
Well, I think they're a decent side in the Championship in that they're young, they're organised, they're quick.
But then you saw, when City sort of had the ball in the midfield, the kind of someone like Larson's got his foot and he's looking around and he's not sure where to go, and was supposed to make a run to this area and that area. And it's like there's no kind of.
I think man for man, you look at that and you think we're probably better than Preston, but we're not a team, and they were, and I thought they were a good team, and I think a good team is better than the sum of its parts, and that's it, isn't it? You look at them as individual players, apart from Hugo, who we've turned down big bids from, they're probably quite ordinary. But I thought they were a good side. I mean, certainly a far better side than Birmingham, who, again, another club who had huge turnover in the summer. I think Harry Redknapp, he signed more players than he won points.
15, I think it was, yeah.
Which was more points than he got back in the last season than the start of this season. So another team just bring in players, get players going out, players coming in, and they look far worse than us. And I think the best thing you say about Hull City is that there are definitely 3 teams worse than us, because we've beaten them 4-1, 4-1, 6-1.
Just them 3.
So.
Yeah, it's how far they can go into it. They can find a bit of if Slutsy can find his team and they can find a bit of consistency, then there's no reason why that team can't push towards the playoffs and into that top 6, is there really? But can they get that consistency? The question, isn't it? That,
Well,
is
they're
there a team?
not sort of far away that
Yeah.
it's not possible. I mean,
No.
I remember Palace under Dowie did it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, they came from a long way.
there was, I think there was
Yeah.
in the relegation zone practically,
Yeah,
wasn't
that
there?
first promotion for Hull City back in 2008. I mean, Christmas time was sort of like 13, 14, something like
they were
that.
up there, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I think the worry is, I mean, he wants to play three at the back, but he hasn't really got the players who can fit into that, and so I think he's going to be forced to play four. When we've played four, we've generally looked better, safer, more organised, and that gives more freedom for people like Bowen and Grzycki to do things. But the worry is, when you look at that squad and you look at other squads, you know, you look at, say, Wednesday on Sunday, they had people on the bench who would walk into our team. You know, and when you've got a situation when a guy who a season or two ago people used to despair when he came on, David Myler, who I've always liked as a guy who did his job, and he's now become the main man. It's almost like they're going to have to build a team around David Myler.
It's like the last man standing, isn't it?
Well, almost.
Is that his ability though, or the fact that he's the only one? From
Well,
I think
he's got an amount of ability. He's got the experience. He's got the right attitude. He gets on and does it.
Yeah.
You know, from my point of view, he's going to be first or second on a team sheet.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's ever let the club down, has he? Really?
No, I mean,
people
no.
just want to boo Body, don't they? And he's always the obvious.
He's not the
easy
soundest
target,
of
isn't he?
passers. I mean,
No, he's not.
when you put him against, you know, Huddleston, you know, he's not going to shine as a
No,
passer.
no. It's horses for courses, isn't it?
When he
Absolutely.
did not Pardew, that's when he let the club down. That's when he.
Should
He
be
could be
mad.
knighted for that, shouldn't he?
I mean, I've always been a big fan of David Myler. I think only idiots are, really.
Yeah.
If we're being really honest, I mean, a certain amount of every club's fans are idiots, and people who despair of a guy like Myler who gives you everything, they do mind nothing because they're clearly idiots.
And it's not just that he gives you everything. He plays a useful function in the team, doesn't he? You know,
Well, I think he's a better player than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
But I think now everybody else has gone. People are starting to realise that. You know, he's got a lot about him. I think he wins a lot of friends as well with his attitude. You know, just things like tweeting.
He's quite social media savvy.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I've
that was it the first game of the season at Aston Villa when he was sort of on the bench. He was sat with his phone correcting the official Twitter for everything that they got wrong. And people see, you know, that he's always been a good guy and he's a good character. And I think now we have fallen to a level where his ability is right up there in terms of the squad. But he has always been a better player than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
But I think even with Myler, at the moment he's a defensive midfielder, and to me this is the area where we really struggle, because it doesn't matter whether we play four at the back or three at the back. Slutsky seems to try and play two midfielders to screen the back four or the back three, and one of them's been Myler in a lot of games, and the other one has been Henriksen, Larsson, Terrell, just people who are absolutely, completely and utterly unsuited for that role.
that position.
And Myler himself isn't even a defensive midfielder. I mean, he's the only player in the squad who can tackle, so by default he's defensive midfielder, but he isn't, he never has been. That's not been his role. He's more of a box-to-box, you know. I think he looks better when he gets forward into the opposition box, so they've been a bit unlucky in that they bought Kevin Stewart from Liverpool for relatively a lot of money for what we've been spending, and we haven't seen him yet. So, and he is a genuine sort of defensive midfielder. So when we get Stewart back and him and Myler can protect and all the other players, and you see, don't you, in games when like Larsson's been playing further forward, suddenly looks a different player. Terrell on Saturday played further forward, looked a different player. Henriksen came on behind the striker, looked a different player. Albeit we were 5-1 up at the time, that's his fault. So I think that's the key area, and I think we're losing midfield in a lot of games because we don't have anything in there. And you're gonna when you look, you know, in the last 8-9 months we've lost Livermore, Huddleston, Klukas. You know, it's hard to replace that.
Yeah. massive turnovers again, is it?
Yeah, massive turnover, and again, yeah, sort of penny pinching. We have to have Seb Larsson on a free instead of going out and signing a proper fit midfielder, and that's not against Seb Larsson. I mean,
I must confess, I did say that I'd rather have Stig Larsson than him, and he's a dead author.
Yeah.
And at times this season, I think he might have done a better job.
He's had some poor games. He's had a couple of good games, and I think you say that about most of the squad, can you?
I think this, at the minute, you look at the teams. I mean, one of the criticisms of Myler was he always had that error in him, the stupid back pass or something that produces a goal.
Well, now we've found him with 10 mates.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't anybody in that side who you would sort of say is 100% reliable.
No,
they've all got major errors in them.
Yeah, I don't think Larsson's a bad player as such, is he? It's just like, is he the right player for the squad? It's one of these in a way. We've got to the last sort of 10 minutes in the transfer window, and we thought, right, we need some bodies.
I'll put it this way,
who's available?
There's some question marks about that, yeah, because Jackson Irvine was another one I should have mentioned who's been stuck in that defensive midfield role when it's not his role. I think the manager actually come out and said he's not the right player for the system. But he's a good player, and it seems like somebody else has bought
Is
it.
he the kid from Burton?
From Burton, yeah, the Australian kid. So somebody's gone out and bought a player because he's a good player, and the manager doesn't quite know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And it just...
It's been like we're just getting bodies in it and just sort of hoping for the best.
Well, I mean, the thing that got me was the week after the transfer window closed, Abalam did one of his North Korean announcement videos where the guy was held at gunpoint asking him questions, probably, allegedly. And you can do that spit for Boston. And one of the things he said was 2 weeks ago we got a new scouting system in place. So a week before the end of the transfer window, we got a new scouting system in place.
And we've got like a director of football on board.
No. We've got a director of recruitment, head of recruitment.
Whatever his job is, he's supposed to be.
He's gone out and found some players, but I don't know. I mean, he's another guy who I think is probably on a hiding to nothing.
Is that not the easiest job in the world, though, head of recruitment? You're only busy for 2 months of the year.
Yeah.
Well, not really. You should be seeing lots of football. And
this is all City.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem with him is even if he brings a list of great players, he ever go, does he cost more than 20p? No.
Does he want more than
Does he want more than
£10
a week? Yeah.
And a curly-whirly.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, they're paying a bit like Ferriby. They're just paying for disorganisation, and it is from the top. And again, I mean, I still go and still watch City, and I still like a lot of the players, and I adore the manager. He just, I don't know, there's just something about him, and he just seems like such a good guy. But just great people around the club. It's just a rotten club from the top.
Has there been a little bit of a turning against the manager, possibly, a la Ferriby with Hilsham? Do we see people questioning?
There was some questioning, but I mean, it's funny.
Back to the Mala thing, idiots ignite you.
Yeah, I mean, there was some questioning after the Preston game. I saw a lot of that. Funny enough, we won 6-1 the next game. It seems to have all gone away.
Yeah. Like everything. Yeah. So bearing that in mind, your 3 players that have been so far into the season of success, and your 3 players that have been a bit of a disappointment, shall we say? Names.
Blimey. Well, disappointment. I think I'll go with. He started in success, and now he looks a bit of a liability. Is Michael Hector. Up until we got thumped at Derby, I thought, hey, we've got a player here. And before the end of the window, there was even some people saying, what are we getting signed up? And now he looks a bit lost. I think Kingsley, who's coming at left back, doesn't look much better than Max Clark, albeit on a really short time to judge him. And probably Dicko, the striker, hasn't done a lot so far, has he? So
no, but he hasn't really.
Has he not been playing?
Has he?
Yeah,
no. Success. Fraser Campbell, obviously. I mean, just guarantees you sort of hard work and.
He's got a touch of class,
quality. He's got real class.
He's got
another one.
Proper pro now.
Only idiots don't love Fraser Campbell, in my opinion. He is absolutely superb, albeit still probably not fit. Struggling now for who else?
Bowen's been a big success.
Bowen's been a big success, but to be fair, anybody who's been watching him the last couple of years in the under-23s, I think probably see that he's a player. Maybe
what do you think of the 7 goals?
I didn't think he was going to get 7 goals. in the Championship. No,
He
but I
probably
think
won't
he's
get a
good player.
chance because he'll probably be sold in January when he gets offered anything more than about 5 million for him.
Would Ferry offer a fiver?
And I quite like Tomori as well. The
Yeah.
kid from Chelsea. I mean, he came in at the last second, didn't he? Literally, with no real fanfare, and played for the under-20s in the summer, and he looks a far better player than Hector, to be fair, and he's about 6 years younger. So I think he's going to be some player. But the problem is with him and Aina as well, who's not bad.
I like him.
I like
He's
him.
exciting.
He's
Might
always-
not always be exciting
Yeah.
when he's sort of like near his own
There's a
goal.
hint of Mendy in there sometimes about him. You're never quite sure what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a superb player, and tomorrow's going to be a superb player, and they're going to be superb
For somebody else.
for somebody else. That's exactly it. That's the problem with loan players. You either get a guy like Hector where it's not really going well, and you're just paying his wages, or you get guys like them who are going to go back to Chelsea. Fantastic players. I mean, Aina, if he don't break through at Chelsea, they'll probably sell him for 15 million to Burnley or somebody like
He'll
that.
have a Premier League career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it'll be a bit like Nias at Everton, where it's, thanks Hull City, but by the way, you get absolutely nothing for it.
Yeah, I'm just hoping we don't have any sound issues this week, the way you two have been shouting, I like Aina. If he comes out I like anal, we're in trouble. That's the City section wrapped up for this week.
Yeah,
or for
I
this,
think I might need to edit a bit of that.
Yeah. Might cut that off early. We'll be back after the break, and we will discuss, hopefully, a bit more upbeat, I think is the word, because we'll be discussing our local sides, and they've had mixed fortunes, but one or two of them are sort of batting above their average, and we'll talk about that after the break when Nick's finished fucking about on his phone.